Welcome to the Sisters of the Shire Podcast, where I, Abby, along with my cousin and co-host Ashley, embark on a journey through J.R.R. Tolkien's world of Middle-earth. Today we are continuing our exploration of the Silmarillion, and we are now in the final section called Of the Rings of Power and the Third Age.
If this is your first voyage into the Silmarillion, we recommend starting from episode 1 so you can learn all of our inside jokes and all the other important details you would need to follow along. Together, we'll go over the key elements in this epic tale, doing our best so that every name and place finds its own place in your memory.
So whether you are a seasoned traveler of Middle-earth or just beginning, it's okay. You can join us on this enchanting adventure. Let's go!
Let's go!
Oh, how have you been?
I've been all right. Just
Yeah.
hanging out on a Sunday. Because we're doing a double header today, guys, because Ashley's going places and I'm going on my own adventures.
Oh, yeah. She's going to the Misty Mountains.
Kinda, yeah. I am going to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons.
Can you not fall into the geyser, like those scary poster board things that they have up in the Yellowstone Park?
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, maybe our international listeners, Yellowstone National Park has naturally occurring geysers, like hot geysers. That
I think
some
the
of them
term
are
you're looking for is caldera of death, Abby.
Yes. And some of them have naturally occurring element of chemicals that are like acid. And,
but it looks so pretty, Abby. It looks so blue. Blue means cold water, right?
Yeah. But the acidy stuff, when it is in the area of certain types of minerals, make it super beautiful. So it's like blue and yellow and copper, and it's like the ground looks super cool. But if you touch the like water, it's like an acid pool, basically.
Boiling. Yeah.
So they don't fence it off or anything like that. They have like little boardwalks things that you can like go around and look at them, and they're kind of like farther away, but like literally there is no barrier. Like you can just run out there if your intrusive thoughts take over. And so they have these like huge warning poster things throughout the park. They're like, don't jump in the hot springs, don't touch this, like blah blah blah. But they're like these illustrations that are like so sad looking. Like one of them, because it's illustrations of things that have actually happened. Like they have written out stories of like back in 1970 whatever, this child jumped in and like his family had to watch from afar while he was boiled and stuff like that. And so they like drew them on these huge posters in the park, and so you're like, oh, this is such beautiful scenery. Oh, there's a very sad illustration of a child being boiled like right next to it.
So Abby and I have been to Yellowstone. We actually went the last time on our senior trip together, but I haven't done it with my child yet. And it's something that I really do want to share with her because it was a big part of my childhood. We actually lived in Wyoming for a few years. I was actually born in Wyoming. It's a beautiful area. I really want to share it with my daughter, but I am terrified of the anxiety I'm going to get. Yeah. We recently did a little trip to Deception Pass, I think. And you literally are like walking across this bridge that is like super, super high up. It's a very narrow bridge. I mean, it has like its own sidewalk and everything like that, but you're literally like a bungee cord away from traffic, and a hip tall wall will lead you to your certain death over the bridge. And
Girl,
I got about
white
halfway
knuckling her hand.
I could not let go. I couldn't breathe. You can't even fit, well, you can fit 2 by 2, but if there's a couple coming towards you, you have to move it to the side. So she would be like in front of me.
Fingernail marks on her shoulders from you.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I had done that before with just me, and I was like, okay, I wasn't like having the time of my life. I wasn't like super relaxed, but with a child, I literally, we got to the middle point and I looked at Nate and I'm like, I have to go back. He saw my face. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I literally sat in the car for like a good second, just like trying to breathe. And like, poor Lizzie's like, what's wrong with mommy? I'm like, I'm fine.
I'm fine. Go on without me, children. No, my son really, really wants to go to the Grand Canyon.
Nope.
And
nope. Nope.
Yep. And I'm like, I love you, dude. I love you. But that's a no for me. Even recently, I mean, this is a super sad story, but a 12-year-old fell in, like not even a few months ago, into the Grand Canyon.
Well, I didn't even know intrusive thoughts was a thing. And I'm like, oh, that's why I am the way I am. Because literally all of the intrusive thoughts, every single freaking one of them. Because like so the bungee cord, that part didn't really bother me so much. Like the odds of like a car actually hitting my child wasn't as big as the precipice that was on the other side of this stone wall. And, you know, the stone wall, it was like above her head. So, I mean, I wasn't too worried about that, but there was this like probably foot tall gap underneath the wall from like the ground up. And I mean, my child would have to fall down and then roll somehow underneath that. But in my head, that is exactly what happened multiple times. Like,
You just strap her in an ergo. She's like huge. She's just like on your chest, like in a baby carrier, but her like legs are to your knees.
Oh no, but that's even worse because I was like, maybe if I hold her, I'll feel better. But then I'm like, no, then I'm putting her above the wall. Welcome to my brain, people. Welcome to my brain. And this is why my husband calls me, my Indian name is Joy Killer. Fun Stopper.
Yeah, I get you. It's the joys of parenthood. All the scary things that you have to realize that, oh, this is terrifying with a child.
Yes.
Look at this beautiful nature, children. It's gorgeous out here. Mom, why are you crawling on the ground? I'm fine.
Well, the funny thing is that, so my husband, long story short, he has a very bad neck injury that is causing him to have balance issues. And usually my husband is like a freaking mountain goat and he like will go to the edge and just stand there and be totally fine. And he'll like jump from rock to rock. And I'm just like, I do not trust my coordination that much. Needless to say, my brain. I choose life, yeah. But because his balance was so off, I could see him like wanting to do it, but he's like, nope, no. Like he really wanted to, but he couldn't.
Oh.
So this looks like an indoorsy life for a little while.
Yes, we're reverting back to our hobbits adventures. Yes. Who needs them?
Who needs them? Speaking of the Hobbit, do you want to do a recap, Abby?
We learned about the Palantirs.
Yes, we did. Do you remember how many Palantirs there were?
7. Because Tolkien liked the number 7.
7's the magical number. Do you remember where they were?
It is. There were some in each kingdom. 2 or 3 in each kingdom? No.
Kinda. Elendil had 3, and then he gave 2 to each of his sons. But then the sons kind of had 1 in each of their main places, and then 1 in their capital city that they shared together, and then 1 just kind of on the border of their land. The Stone of Elendil was on the Tower Hills, overlooked the ocean, and possibly could have communicated with the Palantir the Eldar had on Tol Eressëa, which is kind of cool.
But we kind of fan theorized that they couldn't talk back.
Right. Yeah.
Like
I agree with that.
It's a one-way radio, like a monitor, like a baby monitor.
Yeah. The Stone of Amun-Sul was placed on the Tower of Amun-Sul, or Weathertop. The Stone of Annúminas was placed in the North Kingdoms, or Arnor, or Elendil's capital city of Annúminas. The Master Stone, this is the Master Space Stone, not to be confused with the Master Stone one word that is possibly on Tol Eressëa. It's not confusing at all. It was placed in Gondor, or the South Kingdom's capital city of Osgiliath.
And that's what we think drove Denethor crazy. Right?
No, the next one is. The Stone of Anor was placed in Anarian's Tower of Minas Anor and would later be used by Denethor during the War of the Ring. That drove him crazy. Then the Ethyl stone was placed by Isildur in his main tower of Minas Ithil. Eventually, it will be captured by the Nazgul and given to Sauron. And this would be the Palantir that Sauron uses to influence Saruman and Denethor during the War of the Ring. And then the Orthanc stone was placed in the Tower of Orthanc, or Isengard, and it was used eventually by Saruman, and then eventually by Pippin, and then Aragorn during the War of the Ring. And then we got to learn that the White Tree of Isildur was planted in Isildur's tower, Minas Ithil. And we got to learn more about Mordor with its mountains of shadow and valley of very great dread and the dark tower and the mountain of red flame. Da da da.
Do you think it was spooky there? Just a little? Maybe a little?
Just a little. Just a little. I'm sure it's fine. I mean, just a little spooky.
It's gorgeous this time of year. Sometimes like volcanic areas have like beautiful flora and fauna.
Yellowstone. I mean,
Hawaii,
yeah. We also learned how Sauron chose which form he was going to take in his favorite mountain, since he can't have a pretty form anymore. Because Iluvatar was like, I saw what you did on Numenor. It's because of your looks, obviously. It's not because of any, sweet talking you did. It's because you were too pretty, and you can't do that again, sir. So no more pretty looks for you. You can only be ugly.
Do you think he went through it like Maui does when he's changing form? Like, it's like
shark head.
Yeah.
Then once he found his new look, he started some fires and he's starting to get to work and wants to start causing trouble. And this ends up being kind of a signal to the elves and the Dunedain that they kind of see the smoke from his mountain. And he's like, oh, he's back and he's up to no good. And the Dunedain are like, you know what? Mountain of Red Flame isn't good enough for that mountain. We're going to call it Amun Amarth, or Mount Doom. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. What is it from? That it's like someone who says something like Mountain Doom. They're like, in Mount Doom, and it's like dun dun, and it keeps like playing that over and over, like whenever they mentioned it, and it's like lightning strikes in the back, so they're like, in the basement, dun dun. And they're like, can you cut it out? That's like really annoying. No.
And Clue?
It's gonna bug me. If anybody knows what that it's from, it's like a mad scientist or like a villain or something. He's like,
Young Frankenstein? Young Frankenstein! Young Frankenstein!
No, it's not. Like if he would say Mount Doom, he's like, to Mount Doom, dun dun. But he says it multiple times, and so that noise goes dun dun, like 6 times in a row, and the person he's talking to is like, could you stop? Like, okay, we're done with that. Nah, it's gonna bug me now.
And you are 100% sure it's not Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, I know it's not Young Frankenstein.
What about Monty Python?
I'll have to think about it. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Please help me.
Monty Python.
Maybe? Anyway, keep going.
Okay.
Mount Doom. Dun dun.
Dun dun. Okay. So over the last few episodes, we have established the layout of Middle-earth. We have the elves with their settlements in Lindon and Greenwood the Great, which will later become Mirkwood. The Dunedain have their north and their south kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. Sauron mainly just has Mordor, but let's not forget that throughout his time on Middle-earth, he has brought many men to his side. Quote,
because evidently Sauron, they were dumb and sad.
They're dumb,
and they were very
suggestible and gullible.
They're so
but also
very, like, easy to win over.
These are the forgotten men too. Like the forgotten men were definitely like, okay. It's like the whole Germany's not acquiescence to Hitler, but like if you're struggling and you receive a handout, sometimes you just take the hand and then you don't realize that it was evil until later. Is that a politically correct way of saying it? That happens in a lot
of different war-torn things.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. So I feel like that's
pretty
accurate for the men, because we talked about it. They started building themselves up. They had cities and towns of stone, and they started getting more industrious, and they started building armies and stuff. Like, they weren't just the sad, forgotten men in the shacks and hovels under Sauron's rule. So, I mean,
they upgraded, and they're like,
they upgraded. Okay. Yeah. Sauron's bad. He's still a bad ruler and an evil person, but technically,
we got better stuff.
Forgotten men did thrive. Yeah. But, quote, "And Sauron gathered to him great strength of his servants out of the east and the south, and among them were not a few of the high race of Numenor." Unfortunately, from the destruction of Numenor, it didn't wipe out all of the bad guys because, as you remember, we did talk about how a lot of the Numenorians would visit Middle Earth, and some of them had built like summer homes in the south of Middle Earth, and they just kind of would stay there, and they happened to be vacationing there when the actual destruction happened. So, lucky for them, lucky for Sauron, because now he has a faction of Numenorians on Middle Earth that are still loyal to him. So,
which might later be his most devoted.
Yes. So now the Numenorians have been split into two different factions again. But now we're using the term exiles, which are the like Dunedain, which are like Elendil, Isildur, the people in Gondor and Arnor. And then we've talked about it a tiny bit before, but and then we have the Black Numenorians, which is only referring to their decision to worship the Dark, aka Sauron Melkor. Nothing else.
Let's rename it. Let's rename it. Not Black Numenorians. The untrusting.
Sure, we can do that.
What's another word for like the wayward Numenor? No, well,
we already had the swarthy men earlier.
Yeah. Rebel?
No, because rebels are a good thing sometimes.
I don't want to say easy. That's also bad. I'm trying to think of like a descriptive word that would be for like someone who's chosen that like easy way of life, even though it's bad. You know what I mean? Like
cop-outs.
Yeah. The lame Numenorians.
The lame. They're so lame. Easily seduced. I'm like looking up Black Numenorians now. I mean, technically, they're still the Kingsmen. Remember, we were calling them the Kingsmen for a while.
What about the deceived Numenorians?
Okay, I like that. The only thing, I mean, it says like darkness and black arts and priests and things like that. So, I mean, there's things like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm, but you guys get the idea, right? It's not my term, Black Numenorians, just for the record. It's Tolkien's term. But anyways, okay. So these, what did we just say? Deceived Numenorians. Mm-hmm. A few of them, the Nazgul ring race will come from, as well as the Mouth of Sauron. We meet much later in the Lord of the Rings. But for now, Sauron has his army of orcs and other unspecified evil creatures, I'm sure. His army of deceived
Does he have any Balrogs anymore?
I don't know. I thought about that too, because, I mean, later we're going to go to war again. You don't see any Balrogs, and you don't see any more dragons or any more werewolves. I thought about that too. I'm like, did the magic die with Melkor? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. They all ran away.
So
they're hiding in the
orcs, random creatures, the deceived Numenorians, and then just the miscellaneous men from the south and the east that he had brought to his side as well.
Okay.
Quote.
So he's gathered up a good number.
He's got a good number, yeah. Quote, "When therefore Sauron saw his time, he came with great force against the new realm of Gondor, and he took Minas Ithil, and he destroyed the white tree of Isildur that grew there."
This poor tree. Does it ever break?
So, like, I understand that Minas Ithil, I mean, was technically the closest to Mordor because it was right on that border. So that's probably why he attacked there first. But you also just know he heard that it belonged to, That belongs to that punk who stole a fruit from Ninloth back on Numenor, and here he comes to Middle Earth and plants another stupid white tree. Oh no! Oh no, he did not. Like, down with the white trees, down. I will not rest until all of the white trees are gone.
He carves his name in it first. Like, really seals the deal. Yeah. He's like, Sauron was here.
Yeah. So, sadly, another white tree is destroyed. But, you know, with all the darn luck in all the world, quote, Isildur escaped, and taking with him a seedling of the tree, he went with his wife and his sons by ship down the river, and they sailed from the mouths of Anduin, seeking Elendil. Thank goodness Isildur just happened to have a seedling in his pocket that day, or, you know, this story might have gone very differently. But this is also our first mention of Isildur's wife. Would you like to know her name?
It's either this is what I've been thinking with the names of wives in couples in Tolkien. Either it almost sounds like their husband's name.
Sure.
It's like very close. Or it sounds like super, like there was instances of like the name not sounding pretty, but then the meaning of it is pretty, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like saying it out loud, it wasn't pretty, but then you're like, oh,
Alraithel.
The flame of the stars. And I'm like, whoa, cool. Yeah. But it's like Bertha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, so tell me what it is.
I would love to know too, because Tolkien didn't give her a name.
Oh, what the?
I know. I'm pretty
now
upset
let's name her then.
Okay.
She's the flame of the stars. That's what I'm saying.
No, because it's got to be something of the moon, because Isildur is all about the moon. So Isildur is devoted to the moon.
He's not of the moon, so maybe she's complimenting him of being stars and the moon.
Okay.
Because they're always together, right?
True.
Right?
Yeah. Huh.
And his great, what is it? No, they're his great-grandpa. No, his grandpa. They have like something with stars, right? Because there's stars in the Dunedain.
Well, Elendil is a star now.
Yeah, but like the symbol didn't have stars in it. The tree.
The stars, I think, are technically supposed to be the Palantirs.
Oh, whatever.
I know.
Star
it makes
related.
No sense to me. Yeah.
I'm
so something star related.
That's my
Flame of the Stars.
My name for her.
Okay. We do get to know his sons' names.
Of course.
And this could actually.
They're dudes.
They're dudes, of course. And some of them are cooler than others. So we have his eldest, Elendur, because Elendil isn't close enough. You have to have one more that sounds similar. But you'll never guess what his name means. So Elen means stars, because Elendil was something with stars. I don't remember now. So Elendur means devoted to the stars. And his dad is devoted to the moon. I mean...
See, that's why I said his mom needs a star name.
Yep.
I think that'd be cute.
So he was actually born back on Numenor before the downfall occurred. He was about 20 when the downfall happened. So he's a man at this point.
So he saw it happen.
Yeah. Then we have his second eldest, Aratan, which means high man, like a high ground, like high up in the air. Yes.
Oh,
don't ask. Yeah,
a man of high standing. Let's say that.
Yes, thank you. I'm like, it's got to be better than that. Okay. So he was born later, back when Gondor was established. So he only knows Middle Earth. Then we have Sirion. It's not really clear what his name means. Syria means ship, so they're like, maybe it's something to do with ships. So he's also born in Gondor. Then we have Valandil. which is devoted to the powers, meaning like the Valar.
Ooh.
So you can clearly tell who were the favorite children because they got cooler names, right?
Hi, man.
Yeah. Hi, man, get over here. Finish your dinner. Devoted to the stars. I know you finished your dinner because you're a good boy. Devoted to the powers. You don't even have to finish your dinner. Here's your dessert. Ship.
Maybe
you eat all of your brother's vegetables.
Ship. Ship. Go to timeout.
Okay, so we're gonna pull up our first map.
Maybe his mom was named Stars, and then it's devoted to the stars, and he's like her
devoted to his mama.
Like,
aw,
yeah.
I wonder. Hold on, I have to look this up. Hold on, we're taking a side quest here for a second. I have to remember which root means star. I think it's Ellen. Is it Ellen?
I thought it. What's the name of Arwen's pendant? Because isn't that star something?
Even star. Isn't it even star? No, it's gonna bug me. Hold on. What is Elendil? Because if it's Ellen and then it's Ellen, her wife, the wife's name. Hi, I'm Ellen.
Ellen.
Oh man, I think it's more difficult than I want it to be. I know someone's probably yelling at us who actually knows Elvish. I'm sorry. We dabble in the Elvish stuff. We leave that to Tolkien.
It's Flame of the Stars.
Ellen. I like Ellen. Okay, so we're gonna pull up our first map because this escape route makes no sense to me. I read this and I'm like, wait, he did what? Okay, so we're gonna pull up a map of Minas Ithil. We're gonna post these too. Don't worry about it. But if you have a computer and want to look at Minas Ithil, so it makes sense if you're looking at the map. Mordor's right over there, just to go right through this pass here, and the first place you're gonna hit in Gondor is Minas Ithil. I get it. So that's where he's gonna hit.
For podcast recording purposes, the map shows Gondor is on the left, and then there is right down the middle is a mountain range.
These are the mountains of shadow.
Right side of the mountains is Mordor, and there's a small pass right in between to go through to go to Mordor or from Gondor.
Yes.
And it's also on the river that has Osgiliath and the river.
I don't know the other name. Yeah. The River Anduin is very important to Gondor because it's it's very important for Middle Earth because it goes everywhere. But
just imagine Gondor, Mordor, cut in half by mountains. There's one little passageway, and that's where Minas Ithil is.
Yes. So that was supposed to be like the first defense, like the watchtower to watch, for things for Mordor. So if you're in Minas Ithil and you're escaping, so you're Isildur, where would you go?
If I was escaping Mordor or Gondor?
So you're running away from an attack from Gondor. So you can't go towards Gondor, obviously. So where are you going to go?
I would have gone down to Amin Arden, which is the south of Gondor.
Sure. Yeah.
I would have gone that way. I don't know if I would go to Mordor.
Right. So, I guess my better question is so from there you have Osgiliath, which is the big capital city of Gondor, where you have an establishment. And a little bit further south, you have Minas Anor, which is his brother's, Anarion's home. So he didn't do either of those, which I'm like, but why? Because he just keeps going down the River Anduin. And if you pull up another map, so the next map is, we're going to use this, I think, a lot in this section, but...
Yeah, probably.
So you have Gondor in the middle down. I can't think of words. So Minas Ithil is next to Mordor. Thank you. And you can see just very, very tiny, that's where the river spits out, is by that like island down there. Do you kind of see that little speck of blue in the middle?
So Gondor has a coastline, and there's a little island on the coastline. It's more of like a kind of like in Washington, like a peninsula, kind of like it goes into the land. The water goes into the land a lot, but there's an island there, and that's where the river flows into.
Right. So what Isildur does is he goes from Minas Ithil. You see it very, very small on the map there. He goes past Osgiliath, past Minas Anor. He goes just straight down the river to where it spits out by that island. And his plan is he wants to meet up with Elendil. Elendil, his dad, is in Arnor.
That's like saying I'm in South America and I want to go and meet somebody in Alaska.
Yes. Why Isildur? It just makes no sense. Like, I just don't understand that logic. I mean, maybe someone else has a better idea, but doesn't make any sense to me. And especially, because Isildur was essentially the gateway to Gondor. Minas Ithil was. So if he just lets Sauron have that, Minas Ithil, he's basically opening the gates to Gondor for Sauron. Because Sauron isn't just going to stop at Minas Ithil. He goes on to Osgiliath.
He's like, guys, I'm tired. I think we're going to stop here, turn back.
Well, he actually doesn't want to stop at Osgiliath, but someone does stop him. And it's not Isildur. Because Isildur just was like, bye. Anarion actually stops him. The brother.
Isildur's brother?
Yes. Quote,
meanwhile... He should have gone to his house.
Right? Quote, meanwhile, Anarion held Osgiliath against the enemy, and for that time drove him back to the mountains. But Sauron gathered his strength again, and Anarion knew that unless help should come, his kingdom would not long stand.
Sad. His brother just dipped.
Right.
He was like, Daddy, he's coming into my house.
Like, I was on Team Isildur for a little while. Like, he actually was proving his worth and doing some good things, stealing the fruit and having that cool relationship with the white tree. And now he's kind of showing that cowardly side that we end up seeing later. Just like, what the heck? And, I thought for a second, I had to wait, is Isildur the younger brother? Because for some reason that makes more sense. It would make more sense. But no, Isildur's the older brother.
Daddy! He's he's taking all my stuff.
He took my tree, Daddy.
Everything, Daddy.
But, I mean, good for Anarion. He held his capital city. He even drove Sauron back to the mountains. Like, go back to where you came from.
Put the thing back where you came from. Put the thing back where it came from. So help me, so help me.
That was an independent mind link through the airwaves, and I absolutely love you for that. All right, so help is on the way, though. Help is on the way. But
help is on the way, dear. Help is on the way.
It's not going to be from worthless Isildur. Quote, now Elendil and Gil-galad took counsel together, for they perceived that Sauron would grow too strong and would overcome all his enemies one by one if they did not unite against him. Therefore, they made that league, which is called the Last Alliance.
Okay. The Last Alliance.
Sound familiar? Sound familiar?
Does it? The Last Alliance.
Think of the very beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, but there were some who resisted. A last alliance of men and elves.
Oh.
So this is that battle. Are you ready to hear about this battle?
Finally.
We are here. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Okay, so we're getting to the good stuff here. Okay. Well, I have to build up a little bit because I did leave something out a while ago. And it was mentioned very randomly. I don't know why Tolkien mentioned it then. So I didn't, because I'm like, why I mention that now? It makes more sense here. So that's what I'm doing. Sorry, Tolkien. I'm taking the wheel here. So, but just know that this actually happened a while back. This actually happened after Sauron attacked Eregion and Celebrimbor was killed. So kind of travel back in time for a second because we're about to put a very important place on our new Middle Earth Risk game board. Are you ready?
Okay.
Are you ready? Imladris, or Ravine Valley, otherwise known as
Rohan.
Rivendell.
Oh. I was going to say, I haven't heard Rivendell mentioned yet, where elves have been.
Yep. So, like I said, Elrond actually established Imladris long before this, and he's been living there a while after everything went down with Eregion and Celebrimbor and everything. But literally, he mentions it for a sentence and then just completely moves on in a different direction. So I'm like, I'm just going to hold off on that. But now that we are here, this is actually where the last alliance is going to gather first in Imladris, Rivendell.
So do you think it's kind of hard for Elrond to gather all these people again and try again? Because I feel like
I have so much more empathy for Elrond now after this. I can't. I have so much.
Just empathy. Like he's like gathering, men and elves and dwarves again when in the Fellowship of like, okay, guys, we're gonna try this again.
Yes. Have you seen the thing with? Oh man. I forget the actual context of it, but it was basically like Elrond keeps having these instances over and over and over again. So when the Fellowship actually meets up for the first time, he's like, sit down, shut up. This is what we're going to do this time. Like, yeah. I have had it.
This is plan W. We can do this.
Okay. So all these people are going to meet in Rivendell, this last alliance. Quote, and they marched east into Middle-earth, gathering a great host of elves and men. It is said that the host that was there assembled was fairer and more splendid in arms than any that has since been seen in Middle-earth, and none greater has been mustered since the host of the Valar went against Thangorodrim. So first of all, they're stunning. Elves? They look real good. Oh, it's elves and men. This is Elendil and Gil-galad teaming up because they're besties. And now they're teaming up with Elrond because this is Elrond's house. And they look real fine. They look stunning. As, most of the elf armies do. They look amazing.
I know. Oh my gosh. Side note, I belong to this cosplay group and you can post your own pictures of your cosplays you've been working on, and somebody just posted a Haldir cosplay.
Ooh,
Oh,
I know you like it.
Gorgeous.
Haldir's your man. I get it.
He's gorgeous.
So this army is big, and it's only going to get bigger because they start marching. And along the way, they're going to pick up more and more people. So we go to our next map, Rovanion, and we're going to kind of follow where they go. So you see Rivendell in the top left corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
then we have the Misty Mountains.
Yes, so they're going to cross the Misty Mountains first. And then what's the name of that river right there, Abby? That's going down south, from north to south?
Anduin.
The Anduin! It happened again. It's a very important river, people. I cannot stress that enough. So down the Anduin they go. And oh, look what's right on the other side of the Anduin. It's not called Mirkwood yet. It's really hard to find maps that coincide with the timeline, people. I'm sorry.
It's like the USSR and...
Yes. I probably took an hour trying to find the right map that had all the right place names, and I couldn't find it. So we're just going to ignore that little word there, and it's just going to say Greenwood the Great. Okay, moving on. So they're going to pick up some elves in Greenwood the Great, and then they're going to go back down the Anduin. Oh, and look what's up along the Anduin. Lorien. We haven't talked about Lorien a ton. It's very confusing because apparently Lorien's been there a long time, but it's like not official. It's off-grid, kind of like how Galadriel wanted. But as far as I understand it, though, it's not ruled by Galadriel and Celeborn yet. It's a whole thing. Just take my word on that. I went down rabbit holes, people. Just Lorien is there. It exists, but it's not Galadriel and Celeborn yet.
Okay.
So we got more elves from Greenwood the Great, from Lorien. All right, so we got a pretty good-sized army, and they all look fabulous. Quote, "And so came at last upon the host of Sauron on Dagorlad, the battle plain, which lies before the gate of the Black Land. All living things were divided in that day, and some of every kind, even of beasts and birds, were found in either host, save the elves only. They alone were undivided and followed Gil-galad. Of the dwarves, few fought upon either side, but the kindred of Durin of Moria fought against Sauron."
Because they're good guys.
They're good guys. Okay, so are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Quote, "The host of Gil-galad and Elendil had the victory, for the might of the elves was still great in those days, and the Númenóreans were strong and tall, and terrible in their wrath. Against Aeglos, the spear of Gil-galad, none could stand, and the sword of Elendil filled orcs and men with fear, for it shone with the light of the sun and of the moon, and it was named Narsil."
The Flame of the West.
Okay. Yes. So, okay, quick note here about weapons because I love these things. Okay. So first mentioned was Aeglos, which is Gil-galad's spear. Now, of course, we don't get a cool backstory like we do with Narsil. We don't know who made it, anything significant about it, except I did find one cool thing that just proves how awesome Tolkien is. So the translation of Aeglos goes anything from snow point to icicle or snowthorn, which is apparently like some kind of plant or something. But you know what? Let's think about this for a second. What do snow ice things have in common with Gil-galad? Why would that be important to Gil-galad?
Is that what his like family had to cross the sad
Yes,
the Hilcarax or whatever?
Yeah, nicely done.
They
you paid attention. I'm so proud of you.
What is it called? The
Hilcarax.
Fire of vengeance burned within them and kept them warm.
Yes.
And I feel like they brought a special bond and magic with them from that.
Oh, yeah. So Gil-galad's father, in case you don't remember what we're talking about, Gil-galad's father was Fingon. And Fingon was the son of Fingolfin. Fingolfin was the brother that Fëanor left behind in Valinor by burning the ships. And then Fingolfin was forced to lead all of the Noldor that got left behind too, including his son Fingon, across the Helcarax, aka the Grinding Ice. Boom! Tolkien did it again.
Do you think maybe they forged something from there and then they brought it with them?
Maybe, because I think, if I remember correctly, Fingolfin's sword might have had something to do with ice too.
Amazing.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's Aeglos, the spear of Gil-galad. Now for Elendil's sword. Narsil. So first of all, shone with the light of the sun and of the moon. His sons' names have references to the sun and moon. Remember, Anarion is sun, and Isildur is devoted to the moon. I mean, you could just tell Tolkien was like, oh my gosh, I made it work. Like, honey, you'll never guess what I did today. And he even backed this up in a letter that he wrote. He says, quote, Narsil is a name composed of two basic stems without variation or adjuncts. Nar means fire, and Ethiel means white light. It thus symbolized the chief heavenly lights as enemies of darkness, sun, meaning Anar, and moon, meaning Isil. How cool is that?
That's one of my nerd dreams, is to get a replica of Narsil, for like
Nice.
my house.
That would be cool. I also went for a deep dive onto the origins of Narsil, which we brought up a bit before, but just a quick refresher. There was a bad-a dwarf named Telkar, who does not get enough credit because he not only made this awesome
remember
sword.
We wanted the
What did he make?
We wanted the museum of Telkar, of all the things he's made.
He deserves one. Because he also made, do you remember what else he made? He made two other
dragon
cool things.
helmet.
Yes. And do you remember the other thing?
He made
It's a dagger.
the dagger that was given to the twins. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not the twins. Close. The evil brothers that were basically twins. That Baron ended up stealing, and that he used
to get the Silmaril out of Morgoth's
Yes. Nicely
crown.
done. I'm so proud of you. So yes, he made Angrist, the dagger, and he made the dragon helm of Dorloman. I mean, this guy, kudos to this amazing dwarf guy. Anyways, this sword was made way back in the First Age because, I mean, those things were done a long time ago. This wasn't just made. Telkar's probably been dead for a while. So how did we get from Telkar making the sword way back in the First Age to the sword coming to Elendil? The only thing I could really find was that it was somehow at some point taken over to Numenor. There were a bunch of fan theories that suggested it was possibly given to Elros, the first king, brother of Elrond.
Okay.
And it became an heirloom of Numenor and later of the House of Andúnie, somehow, possibly, because like there was maybe another cooler sword. I mean, I don't know what sword's cooler than Narsil, but when the line of kings stuck with men and the House of Andúnie kind of like separated, like you're still royalty, but not as cool royalty as us. You can have this like semi-cool sword, and it's called Narsil. I mean, you guys can keep it if you want. So that's how it possibly happened. It's not really talked about, though. But in case you're wondering, because I was wondering, and I went on many rabbit holes. Okay. So anyways, back to the fighting. Quote, Then Gil-galad and Elendil passed into Mordor and encompassed the stronghold of Sauron, and they laid siege to it for 7 years and suffered grievous loss by fire and by the darts and bolts of the enemy. And Sauron sent many sorties against them.
7 years.
So, okay. First of all, sorties. I don't know why it's such a funny word to me. It's a funny word. I don't know why. But the Audible guy made it sound even weirder for some reason. But it basically means like an attack coming from a position of defense. So basically, like I think of men climbing out of the trenches to try and attack the opposing side, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And also, like we talked about, there was talk of fire, but no talk of dragons or any other cool stuff. What happened to all the cool stuff, Tolkien? I want answers.
No, you gotta say it like Inigo from Princess Bride. He's like, if I use my right hand, over too quickly. If I use Balrog,
you got a point.
over too quickly.
Okay, I'll give you that. But like you said, a 7-year-long siege. Like, okay, logistically though, was that the best strategy? I mean, the purpose of a siege is to cut off any means of resupplying of weapons or food, right? That's basically the overall purpose of a siege.
Mm-hmm.
So do orcs even really need food? I mean, I know they eat, but I mean, they eat each other too. So, I mean, they're not that picky when it comes to food. Also, Sauron doesn't need food, right? I mean, he's a Maiar. I don't know if they necessarily need food.
I just imagine him having like a glass, like a martini glass or like a wine glass in his hand like all the time. That's like all he's
I don't know why that is true.
I feel like that's his only substance of like eating or drinking. But it's like really like dramatically held in his hand when he holds it.
Oh, sure. Sure. So they don't really need food. And they're probably good on weapons since they already probably had them made. And also Sauron is like a master blacksmith. So would the siege really have worked? This is my question to other people who question everything like me.
I don't know war strategies enough to be like, well, if he did this instead and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But
yeah. Well, obviously it didn't work because, quote, there in the valley of Gorgoroth, Anarion, son of Elendil, was slain, and many others.
No. Where's the seal door?
R.I.P. I don't know. We don't know yet. But R.I.P. Anarion, who was possibly braver than his elder brother. We'll never find out. So, R.I.P. Respect Anarion. You did the darn thing. But I also had a theory about this. Okay, so now we're going to pull up a map of Mordor. So if you look at where Osgiliath is, because that was the last kind of place that we heard that Anarion was fighting in, right?
Okay. It's on the other side of the mountain.
Right. And he did push back Sauron to the mountains. That was the last thing we heard, right?
Okay.
So let's say he pushed through and went through the mountains and, took the attack. So now he's on the plateau of Gorgoroth, like we was just saying. That's where he died. But if you think about it, Barad-dûr, that's Sauron's main tower, right? That's probably where they were doing the siege. The Dagorlad is to the north of that. That's where Gil-galad and Elendil were attacking from. So
they're coming from both sides and kind of trying to like...
Yes.
Okay. So it's like a triangle. So like Barad-dûr is inside of Mordor and they're coming through the pass near Osgiliath, and then there's a northern pass where Gil-galad and Elendil are coming from. So it's like they're coming from the north and the west, and they're trying to get like a triangulation.
Right. That's the only thing I could think of that how it happened, because that's actually a very smart move on Anarion's path. So
plus there's mountains, so like there's really no way for them to run away except back into Mordor.
Right. So that's my theory of what happened, because I think that would be a very smart strategic move, in my opinion. I was like, I thought the fighting was up there. Why did he die way down there? But that's what I think. So the death of one of Elendil's sons might have fueled some rage in the Dunedain, because their siege seems to start breaking down Sauron's army.
They got fueled with that anger.
Yes. Quote, but at the last, the siege was so straight that Sauron himself came forth.
Okay, now I'm picturing it in the movies. The movie version.
Yes. Okay, but I'm taking a pause here because the term straight here is so confusing to me. Like when I was listening to the Audible guy, it sounded even more confusing because it made me think for a second, like Sauron could not stand how straight this siege was. Like there's not one gay guy in the bunch. I will not stand for this lack of diversity.
Like, where is the diversity?
Or he's like, oh my gosh, the lines are just so straight. I can't handle. I need to mess it up. Like,
yeah. He's the opposite.
It's too perfect. Yes. Chaos.
It's like in the Grinch when like he pulls the tablecloth out and it's like perfect and then he just runs back and just smashes everything. He's like, I can't handle it.
Yes. 100%. But the actual term straight here is actually referring to the siege being like difficult or in crisis or something, kind of like dire straits is a thing. But yeah, I had to share with you my thought process there.
Who knew? I mean,
Sauron believes so much in diversity.
So yeah, Sauron is one for diversity. He's like, we need to make sure that everyone's represented. That's one good point about, I'll give him that.
Yeah. So anyways, for some reason or another, Sauron wants in on this battle, which is pretty cool because Melkor never did that. So, quote, and he wrestled
Maybe
with
he knows
Gil-galad.
that that's like a good thing to do because he's like, my guy failed. Maybe it's because he never actually went in and did it himself.
Yeah, but this is actually not going to turn in his favor. So Sauron maybe should have chosen the Melkor route here because, quote, and he wrestled with Gil-galad and Elendil, and they both were slain. And the sword of Elendil broke under him as he fell. Okay, so first off, I'm sorry, you're hearing a lot of my random thoughts because this is how my brain works, guys. And welcome to my brain. It's a terrifying place. But Sauron in a wrestling singlet is something I am going to need the internet artists of the world to provide me with immediately.
Oh, no. Luchador.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And his mask is his mask.
Perfect. So then, but Gil-galad and Elendil still have to be in their cool armor, but he just randomly is it, like just completely out of it.
No, like WWE, like really, like spangly, like what's that guy's name? That really famous WWE wrestler. What's his name? He wears like Oakleys and cowboy hats, and his like jackets have long fringe on them.
Oh, I don't remember either.
Oh my gosh.
The kid?
No.
Kid?
He's like,
No,
he talks like this all the time. Dang it.
Hogan.
No, not Hulk Hogan.
Sorry, this is my brain. What is it? The Punisher. Why can't I think of things?
No. It also sounds like Bonesaw.
Yes. Okay. So, anyways, secondly, this is actually kind of interesting because in the movie it does show Sauron showing up, like, and when the victory was almost at hand, and then Elendil's like, Sauron shows up, and it's all quiet. But then in the movie, Sauron basically like stomps on Elendil's sword and breaks it, which both you and I agreed, like, what the heck? But it says here that the sword actually broke under Elendil as he fell.
So it broke on him.
Yes, but also, right. But also how, I mean, if Telkar made this sword, and apparently its matching dagger was supposed to be Angrus that literally pried off his Silmaril from the Iron Crown of Morgoth, like, it's strong. How could he possibly have broken his own sword on himself? So confused.
Maybe
I need
his
more details.
own armor was just as strong.
Maybe. I'll give you that. Sorry, continuing on here. These are my random thoughts. Quote, but Sauron also was thrown down, and with the hilt shard of Narsil, Isildur cut the ruling ring from the hand of Sauron and took it for his own.
So
Isildur was there, like in the movie, yes. But also different from the movie because it sounds here like Sauron was possibly on the ground. And instead of just like stabbing him or blindly swiping at him like in the movie, he purposefully cuts off Sauron's finger to remove the ring. Kind of morbid like sounding, but purposefully. I don't think
maybe he didn't want to touch it. Maybe he knew the legend of rings. If you touch them, something will happen to you. So maybe he's like,
then he picks it up.
He's gonna like take it with the finger, or maybe he just wanted to be like, take that. I'm gonna drive it a little further of like, you lost, you also lose a finger. Haha.
But I find this interesting. Like, if you were in battle with someone, I mean, don't you just obviously go for the easiest kill? So I'm just saying that, like, the strategy and the talk about Sauron had to have been, he's almost immortal, or he is immortal. He is not immortal. What's the word when they can't die? Invincible. But also the ring. They know that the ring has a special significance to him and a special power to him. So the goal isn't to kill Sauron because they know that's not going to work. The goal is to cut the ring from the hand.
To stop the power happening.
Yes.
Cutting it off from the source.
Yes. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, like that they had that like knowledge, I guess.
Okay.
But I also have to share another thought. I'm not sure if anyone else ever thought this. This is my like fan theory. Don't come at me. So the hilt of Narsil with its jagged edge somehow or another cuts off Sauron's ring finger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if Maiars can bleed. I mean, Gandalf and Saruman seem to when they like were fighting and stuff. So I'm just assuming they can. Well, I work in the medical field and I have a history of working with hepatitis C patients, and it can make you very wary of exposed blood. And so I'm like, okay, the blood is now on the hilt of Narsil. Well, what happens when Boromir visits Rivendell and sees the shards of Narsil? What's the first thing that he does?
He cuts himself.
He cuts himself on it. So, I mean, obviously, any actual disease would have been dead long by then. But I'm just saying, in this magical world, blood contamination is a real thing. And it's easy as cutting yourself on the same jagged sword hilt. And who knows what crossed over from Sauron to Boromir. That's all I'm saying. Maybe another reason Boromir turned to the dark side. It was more susceptible or something. I don't know. That's just my...
Isn't there a story in the Silmarillion about the blood ruining someone else? Like blood going on someone and then it like hurts them?
The Karkaroth burned. No, that's the Silmaril. Who did I... Burning blood. I cannot think
it
of
like
anything.
Dripped on him and it like made him sick or something. Was it Baron or no?
Anyways. Sorry, that's gonna bug me though. So anyways, quote, then Sauron was for that time vanquished, and he forsook his body, and his spirit fled far away and hid in waste places, and he took no visible shape again for many long years. So also slightly different than the movie. Like his body was tied to the ring, that the minute it was cut off from his body, the body died. But it also kind of sounds like maybe
ash.
Right. But it also kind of sounds like he gave up his body. Like he forsook his body. He gave it up. It's like, oh crap, if I don't have my ring, I'm not as powerful. I better yeet on out of here. So he like on purpose took his spirit out of his body.
And then his body fell apart. He was kind of like a golem.
Yes.
Like the golem in the sense of like those mythological creatures that are like made out of clay and whatever.
Yes. So that leads me to the thought. What does the spirit of Sauron look like exactly? How much consciousness does a spirit have? And where are these waste places he hid? Like
maybe it's like in The Hobbit where it's like that really scary version of him. The like in The Hobbit where he's like that kind of like shimmery, like fiery shadow and he's not like a person.
Yes. When he's talking to what's his face? Not when he's talking to Gandalf, but when he's talking to Azog.
The
when
orc.
he's like when he's like floating around the thing. And yes, I like that idea. Mm-hmm. So anyways, with Sauron's body at least destroyed, not his spirit, quote, thus began the third age of the world.
Is that the end of the section or is there more?
There's more, but I am stopping here because that seemed to be the stopping point.
I was gonna say that would be a good start into like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And what's funny is that it actually does go over those events, but you get to hear cool backstories that you didn't know before. That's it for today, though.
That epic, the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, like the Fellowship of the Ring, and that battle is so epic, though. Like the numbers of everybody. Like him coming in with that mace thing and just like whacking like hundreds of people at a time. I'm like, dang. It really set the tone of how powerful and like scary he was.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that's why they chose not to have him like fall down in the movie, because like, no, he's too, you can't.
He had to show that he's scary.
Yeah, he's like invincible. You can't knock down an invincible guy down. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
He is a rock
Thank you for teaching me today.
You're welcome. So be sure to follow us.
House.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Sisters of the Shire Podcast. Become a patron and join our Patreon at patreon.com/Sisters of the Shire Podcast. You can become a dwarf friend like our buddy Dan and best friend Dan. He did confirm it. We are best friends, Dan. You and I.
We need matching
we're all best friends.
bracelets.
Yes, we do. Or you become elf friends of the Shire like Chrishane and Tom. Remember, we are brainstorming. We're figuring it out, but we're going to have some kind of trivia at the end of this. Dan already agreed that he's in. I just need to reach out to Chrishane and Tom for our Patreon listeners. So if you want in on some trivia, either versus Abby and I, or versus Abby, versus me, versus Dan, or versus Chrishane and Tom, I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but if you want in on it, yes, there will be prizes. I'm just saying that. I don't know what the prizes are going to be. It's going to be better than a high five, though, okay? Abby will make sure of that, because that's usually my prize to my daughter. You get a high five, and then she hates me. So become a patron, at our Patreon. Also, please rate us on whatever platform you listen to your podcast on. We don't have any new countries or anything like that, or global overtakings, because we actually recorded like 3 days ago. So not much happened yet, but keep it going. Ireland, I know you were climbing the ranks there. You could do it. I believe in you.
You got this.
You got this.
We believe in you. Well, it's been great. Thank you for teaching me, and we're happy all of you are here with us.
Until next week,
I've been Abby.
And I've been Ashley.
And this has been the Sisters of the Shire Podcast. And we're so glad you're here. And we hope you can join us next time. Bye.
Bye.